The US calls Israel the unsinkable battleship, and in reality, it's actually the 51st state of the United States. But it is unique in that since it's a proxy of the US empire, it gets special treatment. When we see Israel carpet bomb women and children in Gaza and Beirut, we see them doing that with American weapons, and it is the US that is providing them with the financial and diplomatic support. And while we may say that, well, that's just the Jewish lobby, that's AIPAC control in America, that's only partially true. We have to take a systems-based perspective on this to understand what is really going on. Since capitalism has its roots in imperialism, colonialism, and slavery, well, the dominant empire of the world, which has a proxy base in the Middle East, is going to do whatever it can to make sure that this ethno-supremacist state stays alive and that it can carry out its war crimes with impunity. The United States itself was founded upon the genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Native Americans and had a flourishing economy that was built on the back of the African slave trade. So it only makes sense that it has a deep connection for Israel, which was also created upon the Nakba, the ethnic cleansing of the indigenous Palestinian population, which also uses slave labor and human trafficking to keep itself afloat. The US empire also has what it calls the Greater United States, which includes all the surrounding islands which it colonized and those which it still controls today. And this has been well explained by Abby Martin's video called The Hidden Empire. Well, Israel's following the same exact trajectory, the Greater Israel Project, as the state officials in Israel make very clear. They want to annex the West Bank, reoccupy Gaza, take parts of southern Lebanon, and maintain control of parts of Syria. Guess who is supporting them every step of the way? The US does a fantastic job talking about freedom and democracy and how they want to see a diplomatic resolution to the war in Gaza and Lebanon while doing the exact opposite behind the scenes. In fact, while the despicable State Department representatives like Anthony Blinken keep telling the media and the world at face value that they want peace in that region and a diplomatic solution, evidence has come out that behind the scenes, they are the ones imploring and encouraging Israel to be more aggressive with its assaults on Gaza and Lebanon. They are the ones providing the intelligence and weaponry for Israel to carry out acts of terror because, in the end, Israel's goals are the US's goals. As I explained in a previous video, Israel helps the US maintain control of the Suez Canal, which conducts 12% of all global trade. Israel literally is a giant military base. Everyone there has to perform mandatory military duty. And so it uses its might to conduct weapons experiments on the people of Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria. The whole idea that AIPAC and Zionist money is controlling the Congress of the United States is a cop-out excuse. That's actually what the elites want us to think. They want us to take all the blame away from the United States and put it all on Israel. Yes, as a systemic outcome, the US is a pure free market, which means that all laws, legislation, and administrations are up for sale to the highest bidders. And this is why, regardless of who is president of the US, the foreign policy remains mostly the same. The goals and priorities have been long established and handed out before any new president steps into office. As Ben Norton of the Geopolitical and Economy Report stated, you cannot maintain an empire if every 4 years that empire's foreign policy can shift.
Biden says, it's Netanyahu and I can't do anything and my hands are tied, which makes people think absurdly that Israel is the tail wagging the dog. But actually what that does is it's an excuse for the US empire's crimes. It distracts from the culpability of the US empire, which didn't need Israel to invade Vietnam and kill millions of people in Vietnam, or wage war on Korea, or wage war against former Yugoslavia, or wage war all around the world. Israel is the convenient excuse that the US uses to try to expand its hegemony across West Asia. Because we know that war hawks in Washington have dreamed about a war on Iran for decades, ever since the Iranian Revolution in 1979, when the Iranian people rose up and overthrew the US-backed dictator, the Shah, who had governed Iran with an iron fist on behalf, largely, of the United States. When the US State Department considered Iran under the Shah to be one of what it called the twin pillars, that was the US strategy for West Asia. The western pillar was Saudi Arabia, and the eastern pillar was Iran. And the US used those regimes to try to maintain control over the region. But with the 79 revolution, the Iranian pillar collapsed, and the US lost one of its most important imperial protectorates in the region, which also was another reason why Israel became so important for the US empire.
In 1981, the Reagan administration illegally sold weapons to its adversary, Iran, through its proxy state, Israel. Iran was losing the war to Iraq, but Israel wanted them to stay preoccupied, so they acted as the middleman, shipping US-made weapons to Iran and restocking from the US. And the funds from this were funneled to the far-right Nicaraguan Contras, which were carrying out massacres against the people of Nicaragua. And yeah, while Israel is the spoiled and entitled baby of the US, which once in a while throws temper tantrums and carries out all kinds of traitorous acts against the United States, these are all acts that the US empire deems as tolerable, because Israel more than makes up for it with all the strategic reasons that I provided. But that strategic value just might be coming to an end, as Israel is slowly becoming more and more of a liability and an embarrassment for the US. As we have seen in the past year, Israel's war crimes and its televised rampage in the Middle East has single-handedly destroyed the reputation of America and exposed the hypocrisy of the so-called rules-based order. Prime Minister of Genocide Benjamin Netanyahu is on borrowed time, as all of his military goals have failed. He has not achieved victory in Gaza. Hamas is as strong as ever. The hostages have not been returned. The Israeli diaper forces are literally pooping their pants as they get destroyed and turned back in southern Lebanon by Hezbollah. Israel's economy is collapsing, and the so-called chosen people of Israel are leaving back to Europe in record numbers. And by the way, where did Netanyahu grow up? In Philadelphia. He went to high school there, and he graduated college at MIT University before going back to Israel to start a counter-terrorist organization. How ironic. So in many ways, he's an American. The person who is the longest serving prime minister in the history of Israel, the person who Norman Finkelstein describes as an obnoxious, narcissistic ethno-supremacist, and the person who basically perfectly represents the Israeli value system is an American who speaks with an American accent. Israel is literally the 51st state of the US empire. As South African apartheid came to an end, it became more vicious and ruthless than ever. And don't forget, Israel has hundreds of nukes. So we cannot rest easy as it carries out war crimes and it continues to push for escalation with Iran. As an anarchist friend of mine told me, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please share it with others. And I hope to see you guys right here next time, if there is a tomorrow, at World Beyond Capitalism. Peace out.
Hello, my name is Greg Stoker, and I'm a former United States Army Ranger. I have a background in special operations and military intelligence, and I conducted 4 combat deployments to Afghanistan during the global war on terror. I now do geopolitical analysis and commentary, and I've risen to a modest prominence in that arena by the simple virtue of being accurate. I also do a bit of human rights activism, but don't worry, I won't bore you with that. I'm not interested in wasting my time or your time by trying to get you to care about the 15,000 children that Israel has quite obviously and intentionally targeted with kinetic strikes. But if that doesn't bother you yet, probably never will. So I'm just here to state that you're backing a losing horse that is now the greatest strategic liability to the United States' global interests. The IDF has been operationally defeated in both Gaza and the northern front in southern Lebanon. I don't have enough time to get into that obvious military reality. Just be satisfied that former Deputy Director of the Mossad, Ram Ben Barak, said on May 18th, and I quote, "The war in Gaza is aimless. We are clearly losing it. We are forced to return to fighting in the same areas, losing more soldiers, losing on the international stage, damaging relations with the United States, and causing the economy to collapse. Show me one thing we have succeeded in." They've succeeded in nothing beyond showing the world their cruelty and thereby making the Palestinian liberation cause the most pressing issue on the international stage. Israel will continue to be isolated and will become a pariah state. The question is, when will you do what you can to pressure the Biden administration to stop this madness for our own selfish interests? Because of this catastrophe and absolute failure in leadership from politicians on both sides of the aisle, the world is turning against us. While our hypocrisy about Western values, human rights, and the rule of law is plain for all to see, there will be irreparable consequences for American interests because of this. If you care about that, not the children, not the civilians. You should probably do something about it. Israel has already been strategically defeated. Why are we going down with it? I'll be back after summer recess to say, I told you so. Stop the killing, end the madness. Ceasefire now. It's the only way forward for us. Thank you.